Hi, Bookish Besties. My name is Brittany. This is Rescues and Reads. Thank you so much for joining me here today. If you are new, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And if you're already subscribed, as always, I appreciate your continued support. Thank you for returning to another video. Today, it is time to do my March TBR, y'all, and it is going to get a little bit complicated because even though I'm going to be doing my normal TBR here, so I'm going to be pulling from the Challenge Cup, I'm going to be playing my TBR game. Throughout the month of March, me and my Patreon are doing a readathon based on my TBR game. It's called the My Bad TBR-a-thon. And the goal of this readathon is going to be to get one pawn all the way around the board. So I've gone ahead and done all the draws already. I know exactly how many draws there were, how many prompts and stuff like that, but I haven't selected any of my books for them at this time just because I wanted to go ahead and know what I was selecting for this video so I could kind of see how much I would be able to double up on, because if I'm not able to use a lot of books from this TBR for the readathon, I'm going to have an astronomical number of books on my TBR for the month of March, and things are going to get even more complicated by the fact that my next grad course starts on the 17th. So things are about to become a little bit chaos here, but we are going to see what we can do. But of course, before we can build March's TBR, we have to see how I did with February. Starting with the two mandatory reads. The first one was the book for my Paw Prints and Prose book club over on my Patreon, and for February, we were reading Black Cake by Charmaine Wilkerson, and unfortunately, that book did not work for me. I ended up DNFing it, but I did give it a try. And then the patron pick for that month was Real Life by Brandon Taylor. Now, I pretty much knew instantaneously that this was not going to be a book for me. It was not going to be a book that I was mentally able to connect with at the time that I was going to read it, and it kind of made me reevaluate how I wanted my patrons to kind of pick their selections for me going forward. So what I did was I kind of wiped out all of the previous picks and had them reselect for me. But in order to replace Real Life with another one that was already there, I ended up selecting Night Watching by Tracy Sierra, and I did ultimately read that. So I did read a patron pick for the month of February. It just wasn't the one that I originally selected, and since then I've gone ahead and redone all of the picks, and so those are the ones that you will see in this video when I make my selection for March. Now, moving on into what the TBR game selected for me in February, it was actually pretty kind to me because I was able to use a lot of the books from the challenge pulls that I drew for the prompts that I landed on for that round of TBR gameplay. So first I had to read a book with red on the cover, and for that I selected Hopeless by Colleen Hoover, which I did read. The next prompt I needed to pick a book for was Beautiful Book, and my Patreon actually had to select that book for me, and they selected The Favorites by Lane Fargo, which I did read. And then the final prompt that I actually had to select a book for was to read a book with fall vibes on the cover, and for that I selected Wonderland by Jennifer Hillier, which I did read. So we were very successful in the month of February, and we are not bringing over anything into March and beyond. So we're going to start with a clean slate. Now, before I get into the challenge polls as well as the gameplay, I once again have to talk about the mandatory reads. So for the Paw Prints and Prose book club for March, we are going to be reading Old God's Time by Sebastian Barry. The theme for the month was Irish literature, and this is the one that won the poll, and I'm so thankful because I actually really like the vibes and sounds of the story. It sounds like it's going to be a mystery, maybe on the more literary side. It says, recently retired policeman Tom Kettle is settling into the quiet of his new home, a lean-to annexed to a Victorian castle overlooking the Irish Sea. For months, he has barely seen a soul. Occasionally, fond memories return of his family, his beloved wife June, and their two children, Winnie and Joe. But when two former colleagues turn up at his door with questions about a decades-old case, one which Tom never quite came to terms with, he finds himself pulled into the darkest currents of his past. A beautiful, haunting novel in which nothing is quite as it seems. Old God's Time is about what we live through, what we live with, and what may survive of us. Like I said, I'm really digging the vibes of this. I think that it's also going to be really atmospheric, and I am absolutely here for this. So I'm really excited that this won the poll. And next, we have to go ahead and do a patron pick. I ended up going ahead and putting them all into a spinner wheel rather than keeping them in a cup. So I'm just going to go ahead and screen record, and we will see what I get. Look in the Mirror by Catherine Stedman. This was Patty H's pick. Thank you so much to Patty for this recommendation. I am really excited about this one. This is the newest release by Catherine Stedman. I read The Family Game by Catherine Stedman, and I really enjoyed it. I'm actually not entirely sure what this one is about off the top of my head, but let's see. It says, Nina, still grieving from the loss of her father, discovers that she has inherited property in the British Virgin Islands, a vacation home she had no idea existed until now. The house is extraordinary, state-of-the-art, all glass and marble. How did her sensible father come into enough money for this? Why did he keep it from her, and what else was he hiding? Maria, once an ambitious medical student, is a nanny for the super rich. The money's better, and so are the destinations where her work takes her. Just one more gig and she'll be set. But when her wards never show, Maria begins to make herself at home, spending her days luxuriating by the pool and in the sauna. There's just one rule: don't go in the basement. But her curiosity might just get the better of her, and soon she'll wish her only worry was not getting paid. So I'm really curious how these two are going to connect, but I'm very much looking forward to the ride of this one. All right, now it's time to go ahead and do a challenge pull. I'm only going to be doing 3 challenge pulls today, and I'm just going to have to hope and pray that whatever I get, whatever books I select for them, I'm going to be able to use for the readathon as well, or maybe some some of the TBR prompts that I'm about to land on. So let's go ahead and see. Okay. All right, we got it. A book you'd consider a comfort read. Okay, so I'm gonna have to think about this for a second just because I do not really reread. So any book that I select for this is going to have to be one that I think could be a comfort read. Like once I read it, I could consider it a comfort read. So let me think about that. Okay, so for this, I think I'm going to have to select First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. I mentioned in my book of the month pick or pass video that I selected this because I really want to give B.K. Borison a try. Her Love Light Farm series is currently all the rage. It is getting a lot of hype, a lot of attention. And when I saw that she was coming out with a new series that was going to be based around the Nora Ephron movies, I jumped on this. So this is going to be her take on Sleepless in Seattle, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. I've seen Sleepless in Seattle and You've Got Mail is one of my favorite romantic comedies of all time. And since I do consider like You've Got Mail and those type of movies to be comfort movies, I think that this one fits really, really well. So this one says, Aiden Valentine has a secret. He's fallen out of love with love. And as the host of Baltimore's Romance Hotline, that's a bit of a problem. But when a young girl calls into the station asking for dating advice for her mom, the interview goes viral, thrusting Aiden and Heartstrings into the limelight. Lucy Stone thought she was doing just fine. She has a good job, an incredible family, and a smart, slightly devious kid. But when all of Baltimore is suddenly scrutinizing her love life, or lack thereof, she begins to question if she's as happy as she believed. Maybe a little more romance wouldn't be such a bad thing. Everyone wants Lucy to find her happy ending, even the handsome, temperamental man calling the shots. But when sparks start to fly behind the scenes, Lucy must make the final decision between the radio-sponsored Happily Ever After or the man in the headphones next to her. So I'm here for it. I'm going into this with an open mind and hoping that I love it and hoping that B.K. Borison becomes a new favorite romance author for me. Okay, draw number 2. Got it? A book from the NPR Books We Love lists. Okay, that's interesting. Let me go ahead and take a look at some of these lists and see if I can figure out something right now. Okay, so those lists are actually a lot longer than I thought, and there were plenty of options to choose from. So I actually have 2 that I'm going to consider for March, and I'm not going to make a firm selection right now. It's going to kind of depend on my mood at the time and what is available when I need to read it. So the first book that is going to be on my radar is The Briar Club by Kate Quinn. This was on the NPR Books We Love list for 2024, and if you'll remember, this was a book that I originally had on my January TBR to read a book with yellow on the cover. January was a really rough month for me in terms of things that were going on in my reading, and I didn't end up getting to that book, but I did satisfy the prompt of reading a book with yellow on the cover. But I still do want to read any book that was on my TBR. And currently The Briar Club is the only one outstanding that I haven't actually read that I said that I was going to read. So I do think that I want to tentatively add that to my TBR. The other book that I want to consider for this is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This was also on the 2024 list, and I will be reading this book for a project that I'm currently doing. Bride is basically the first paranormal romance from Ali Hazelwood. I have read almost all of Ali Hazelwood's adult contemporary romances, and I've enjoyed them for the most part. I haven't read her young adult Check and Mate, and I don't think I'm going to, and I was originally not going to read Bride, but like I said, I have to read it for a project that I'm doing, and I've heard a lot of people love this book so much, so I am definitely going to be giving this a try. And like I said, I'm not going to choose Bride or The Briar Club at this time. I will go ahead and kind of let my mood and what is available to me dictate that choice. All right, and then the third challenge pull. Okay, got it. 2 books with a connection from different genres. And this says book 2, but essentially I have to find 2 books that have a connection when they are part of unrelated genres. So I don't think that I'm going to select anything for this at this time because I think that this might be something that I have to come across naturally, or I'm going to have to do some research for this. So I'm going to go ahead and hang on to this. I'm not going to select anything for this right now. I'm going to kind of let this come naturally to me. All right, so those were the challenge pulls. Now let's go ahead and get into the gameplay. All right, everyone. It's time to play this month's round of the My Bad TBR game. As per usual, the board is exactly as I left it last time, and we are definitely only going to be doing the standard 6 draws, unless of course the board is unkind to me. So let's see how far we can get with draw number 1. Okay, so right off the bat, the board is not being kind to me because part of the new rules is that if I draw a 10, I have to draw again. So at least we're going to make progress with this move going around the board. So let's see what I land on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yellow on the cover. All right, so my first draw was the number 10 and the color red. And this landed me on yellow on the cover, which is actually a little bit fortuitous because, as I mentioned, when I selected the Briar Club in January, it was to satisfy that prompt. So the Briar Club is absolutely an option that I could use to satisfy this. But another book that I need to read because the hold came in from my library is actually Destroy the Day by Bridget Kemmerer. This is the third and final book in the Defy the Night series. It is a young adult fantasy series that I have somewhat been enjoying, and I definitely want to get it finished. One of my goals for this year is to kind of finish out all of the lingering series that have been on my TBR that really only have like one book remaining, and this is certainly one of them. And so I really want to go ahead and get this one done. Like I said, the audiobook just came in from my library, and it is definitely an option for March. So I will either be using the Briar Club, which will also satisfy a challenge pull, or I will be doing Destroy the Day by Bridget Kemmerer. All right, draw number 2. Okay, so I only have one active yellow pawn on the playing field, so we're just going to go 1, 2, 3, and oh, that's a lucky one because that is choose your pawn color. That means next round I get to choose which color I want to move, and it also means that I do not have to actually add a book onto my TBR, so that is very fortunate. All right, next I drew a number 3 and the color yellow, and this was a very fortuitous draw because it landed me on choose your pawn color. That just means that my next draw, I get to choose which pawn color I use. I don't actually have to spin a wheel. All right, draw number 3. All right, just when I thought things were going to average out with that last draw, I have to once again draw again. So there are going to be 8 total draws in this round. But for this, I get to choose which pawn I move. And that's definitely going to be based on where it's going to land. So let me quickly figure out where each of these will land if I move 10, and I will see where I'm going to move. Okay, I definitely think that I want to go ahead and move that far blue guy over there. So I'm going to flip the board and we will move him officially. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Book box. All right, so once again, I drew a number 10, but because I was allowed to choose what pawn I moved, I was allowed to select the prompt that I wanted, essentially. I chose to move a blue pawn, and it landed me on book box. And y'all know that I have plenty of options to select from for this, so I decided to go ahead and select Penitence by Kristen Cavall. I do believe that this is a debut contemporary / literary fiction story, kind of like a family drama type of thing, but I do believe that there's also an underlying mystery. It says, when a shocking murder occurs in the home of Angie and David Sheehan, their lives are shattered. Desperate to defend their family, they turn to small-town lawyer Martine Dumont for help. But Martine isn't just legal counsel. She's also the mother of Angie's first love, Julian, a now successful New York City criminal defense attorney. As Julian and Angie confront their shared past and long-buried guilt from a tragic accident years ago, they must navigate their own culpability and the unresolved feelings between them. Spanning decades from the ski slopes of rural Colorado to the streets of pre-9/11 New York City and back again, Kristen Cavall's debut novel, Penitence, is an examination of the complexities of familial loyalty, the journey of redemption, and the profound experience of true forgiveness. I just really like the synopsis of this. That's why I chose it for Book of the Month, so I'm actually really excited to go ahead and get to this and give it a try. Okay, draw number 4. All right, my friends, so that was a queen, which means I get to move one of my pawns straight into the safety zone, although I still do have to pick a book because those blank safety zone squares means a challenge cut pull. So I'm actually going to take this guy here that I just moved, and I'm going to put him into a safety zone since that other blue way over there is already pretty close. So let me once again flip the board and we will do that. Okay, so for this, I'm just going to have to do a draw from my challenge cup. All right, next I drew a queen and I spun the color blue, and this allows me to get one of my pawns into their safety zone. So that's lucky because now I'm closer to my home base for this one pawn, but it's not necessarily good in terms of prompt because now I have to do another challenge pull. So let's go ahead and hope that this one is kind to me. I'm just gonna reach in here really quickly and grab one. Ooh, anticipated release. Okay, that was very kind for me. As I mentioned, I think it was in my last TBR video, I added a bunch of slips that just say anticipated releases because I want to try to read the majority of the books that I put on my 2025 anticipated release list. And I have the perfect book to satisfy this prompt, and that is Famous Last Words by Gillian McAllister. This was a book that was certainly on my anticipated reads list. It was yet another one that came to me in my February Book of the Month box. So it seems like I'm going to try to knock out a bunch of the February Book of the Month books in March, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what she does with this one as well. Okay, draw number 5. Okay, so luckily 9 is a very straightforward movement, and also luckily we have the pawn right here that I need to move. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, summer. So that means I need to read a book that is giving summer vibes in some way. All right, then I drew a number 9 and I spun the color yellow, and that landed me on the prompt to read a book that is giving summer vibes. And for this, I think I'm actually going to go with First Time Color by B.K. Borison, although it's probably a little bit more spring than it is summery, but it's got these like really bright, fun colors on the cover. Or what I could also do is use Destroy the Day by Bridget Kemmerer, because that definitely has a lot of summery colors on the cover as well. So either way, I definitely have a couple of summer options, and I do have a couple of options to satisfy the yellow on the cover as well. Draw number 6. All right, so normally I would be wary about the number 2 because anytime I draw a 2, I have to find 2 books to fit whatever prompt I land on. However, no matter what color I draw, I'm just going to move them from start, and that's going to move to a free space. And that means I don't have to select anything. So let's just go ahead and see which color is being moved out from start. Yellow again. Okay, perfect. I'm just going to reach over here and bam, that guy is out on a free space. And since a free space is not a prompt, I do not have to select a book to satisfy that. All right, for draw number 6, I drew a 2. And normally that would make me really wary because typically I have to select 2 books to satisfy the one prompt. But I spun a yellow and I was actually able to get a yellow onto the playing field out of its start onto a free space. And because it's a free space, I don't actually have to select a book. So that was very, very lucky for me that I don't actually have to select another book to read for a prompt. All right, I believe that this is draw number 7, so we are almost there. Okay, now with an 8, I can either choose to keep the prompt that I land on, or I have to read another Patreon pick. Also, I forgot that I get to move one of these greens out onto the playing field. I'm always allowed to have one pawn of every color out on the playing field, and this guy here is no longer on the active playing field. So it's a good thing that when we drew that 2, we did not get a green because I would not have been able to move a green from start at that point. So let's go ahead and flip the board and see where this guy lands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Green on cover. All right, next I drew a number 8. I spun the color green, and that actually landed me on the prompt to read green on the cover. And I was looking at all of the books that I have on my immediate radar, the books that I want to read for my TBR this month, and almost none of them have green on the cover. So I went to like my Goodreads TBR and everything, and I think what I'm going to settle on for this is Freak by Jennifer Hillier. The new cover that is coming out actually is almost entirely this bright neon fluorescent green, and it's going to work perfectly for this. This, to my knowledge, is like the final book that I need to read in order to have read all of Jennifer Hillier's novels to zero. And this is the follow-up to Creep. Now, Creep wasn't my favorite. It's probably my least favorite Jennifer Hillier. It did get a 3 stars, but it was nothing mind-blowing. She can definitely do a whole heck of a lot better. So I'm not super looking forward to this one, but it's Jennifer Hillier. I know that at least I'm going to have a good, fun time with it. So this will definitely knock out 2 things, right? I will be able to satisfy this prompt, and I will also be able to read Jennifer Hillier to zero and get another book off of my TBR backlist. So it's a win-win-win for me. All right, and then we are finally at the last draw. This is another lucky one because I can either move a pawn forward 1, or more likely, I'm going to want to get yet another pawn out on the playing field. Now, the only one at this point that I'm not going to be able to move from start is yellow because I just moved him from start and he is blocking his start space. So let's hope that it's not yellow. Okay, that was close. It did almost land on yellow, but we got red. So I'm just going to go ahead and move this one guy out here and land on free space. And that is perfect because I need all of the free spaces that I can get for this month. All right, and then the very final draw was an 8. I spun the color red, which was very fortunate because that also allowed me to get yet another pawn out onto the playing field. So once again, I moved red from start out onto the free space, and I do not have to select a book for this, which again is very fortunate because I have a lot of stuff going on for the month of March and I could use all of the free spaces that I could possibly get. All right, everyone, that is it. That is going to be my TBR for the month of March. Like I said, it is going to be very, very ambitious. I'm going to have to be very creative in how I read all of these books to try to satisfy all of the different prompts that I'm trying to do. So we're going to see how it goes. Please comment down below and let me know if you have read any of the books on my TBR and what your thoughts are. I would love to know. Or please let me know some of the books on your March TBR that you are excited to read. Or if you made it to the end of this video and you are not feeling chatty, go ahead and leave some type of note or pen emoji in honor of Famous Last Words by Jillian McAllister. And as always, always, if you like this video or if you just like me, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. I typically post 2 videos a week, one on Wednesdays, one on Sundays, and I would love to connect with you in any of those future videos. Or if you'd prefer to connect with me outside of BookTube, you can always find links to my Goodreads, Instagram, and Patreon linked down below, along with any books featured in the video. Until next time, y'all, bye.